Hello again. Glad you could join us here at the Confident Rebuild Project. When I thought I was fired in my early 20s, I worked for a company building mobile trailers for remote camp jobs, is kind of what they were doing. I was new, I was in my 20s, like I said, and I was still figuring out life, and I didn't have really a father figure that showed me how to do different things with wood and how to cut and measure and do those kind of things. So for me, this was pretty new of getting this kind of figured out. But I had a buddy that said, "Hey, I know a job if you want one, they're hiring." So I put in my resume and everything, and I talked to Tom, which is a foreman, and he was looking for guys outside of high school that needed a job and looked like they were going to be decent workers. So seemed like a decent guy, normal person, that was there to run a crew. And I thought, hey, this seems good to me. Give her a whirl. So he said, come in Monday. So that's what I did. So I was working there probably for, I don't know, probably for about a month or so, maybe a little bit longer. And I remember that I was in a new place inside this giant warehouse, pretty well, big facility. It had big crane structures, overhead cranes, and lots of different saws, sawdust, mostly construction site, but indoors, pretty well, with a roof, kept you warm, and with a big assembly line. That's basically what it was. And everybody had their different places where they needed to go and where they needed to be. And then that was what got everything put together. It's like manufacturing, but for big trailers for remote jobs, out for mostly oil field related stuff, camp jobs, pretty well. So one morning, I decided that I was going to take a shortcut through because we didn't have a lot of time when the buzzer went. You had 2 minutes pretty well to get to where you needed to go. And by the time I had to maneuver through different places inside the facility, getting around people, things, stuff, getting to where I needed to go, it was just taking too much time. And I really was self-conscious about that I just felt that I got to figure out a way to get there faster. So I seen that you could go down the middle of the shop if they didn't have the big framing walls set up where they were, but they were low enough that you could get up on top of them and just walk through them. I'd seen a couple guys do it, but it was one of those gray areas where it wasn't really talked about, but you probably shouldn't have been doing it. But I figured I need to save some time. I need to get over there. What's the worst that can happen? But I wasn't thinking about the day before and the weekend for sure that that was the time when I enjoyed going out in the bar scene and having a few drinks, a few too many. And then Mondays were hard days. Hungover, not feeling the best. But one thing I didn't realize is that your balance, especially my balance, wasn't the best to begin with, but so much more so when I was hungover for drinking. So I used to cut this, corner a few times during the week. It was now it was now Monday. Sorry. But I used to cut this corner every once in a while. when I was in that particular place. So as I was doing my usual, walking on the frame, as they were like the 2x4 was probably about, I don't know, 2x4, so 2 inches. And as I was balancing on it, I couldn't even go 2 steps, and I went off, my foot went off the side right through the drywall. And I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. And it's a lot of work to repair these these frames like this. So as I just fell, I'm like, did anybody notice? Like I didn't even pick up my head enough time, and I stepped and my foot went through the other one. And as I was still trying to get up, I foot went over to the side a little bit, and I had 3 big holes in it. And I'm like, all I was thinking, did anybody see this? As my head came up, there was Tom, my foreman. He was looking right at me. And I thought, I better just go grab all my stuff. I'm done here. I'm pretty well fired. The foreman who taught through things. Tom didn't yell. He just he just started laughing. He laughed hard. He said, "Wow, you must have had a few too many drinks over the weekend, man. You couldn't walk a straight line if your life totally depended on it." And I couldn't believe it. I thought for sure that I would be gone. Then I remember another time when I was doing a chalk mark on a wall that was vertical now, because it was near the process of getting it almost sent out. And was my job to take a chalk line from one end to the other and then start putting in self-tapping screws in there just to hold on to the metal siding properly. So I must have been, I thought I was right on, but I must have been off way more than I thought. And as I started drilling the holes in the spaces that they give you a certain tool to be able to make sure your spaces are correct and that. And I went over that. That was all fine. But since my line wasn't straight, it was actually going down instead of staying level and up. And as I got to the got to the end of this wall, Tom was looking at me from behind me, and he just started chuckling. And he says, "You know, the more you're off at the start, the worse it's going to get in the end. Kind of like life sometimes." And he just started laughing. And then he had a teaching moment and kind of taught me a few things about measuring twice and cutting once and measuring and making sure that I got it right before I get going again pretty well. The thing about what I liked about Tom the most is that, and what made him such a powerful teacher to me, that reminded me, I guess, of somebody that was just really confident in what he did, but had a good way of relieving stress and making people, I guess, not ashamed and feel really anxious and bad about what they might have done, but a place where you could just laugh, but then really listen when he was describing it and then giving you a better way to do it, a good teaching moment and showing you, and then working with you a little bit through that and then after it's all done, then just letting you go again. And only one other time I think that I did something the second time, but it wasn't. And it was the same thing, just to laugh and said, "Oh, we'll just come over here. Maybe I missed a few things. I'll show you things." So there was no ego and no shouting, just lessons wrapped around in a bunch of laughter. And that's a person that I've always looked up to. I always remember him. And I haven't had the best moments of being a father sometimes in that of following this, but now I guess more so now that my kids are older, I'm trying to remember these things that he taught me and trying to put these things more into their life. So from my story to yours, maybe you've had someone like this in your life, a quiet mentor who didn't just tell you how to grow, but showed you the people who teach confidence. The best aren't perfect, they just show patience. Maybe think about someone who might have taught you more through how they lived it than really of what they said. What lessons did they leave with you? And what are the ones that you still might carry today? And that would be cool to hear your comments from this and put them in the video too, of letting me know, like in the description there too. And that would be really cool to read some of those and see what experiences you might have had also. The power of gentle guidance. Confidence isn't built by avoiding mistakes. It's built when someone helps you laugh through them. Tom just didn't build trailers. He built people. I hope you like this story with this lesson in it as much as I do. And I'd really love to hear your comments. I appreciate it. So thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you later. Thank you.